Have you thought this through?
No way will that work.
Are you sure? Is there any money in that?
You'll never make any money doing that. How are you going to pay the mortgage? Just get a job.
You're going to try to sell that? Why can't you be normal like everybody else? All right. Were your parents morons too?
The savvy entrepreneur to the rescue.
Congratulations. That really turned out well. Really good job.
I'm getting ready. I'm surprised.
You know, I wish I thought of that.
I never thought anyone would. How did you do that?
I'm so glad you're pursuing your dreams. I wish I had the courage to follow my dreams.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Savvy Entrepreneur Show. If you're an entrepreneur or a small business person, or you're thinking about becoming one, listen up because this show is for you. I'm Doris Nagel, your host for the next hour. I've counseled lots of startups. I have many friends who are entrepreneurs, and I myself have either started or helped start a number of businesses. Oh, I have made mistakes. I could go on for a long time about all the mistakes I've made. And if you couple those with the ones that my clients have made and my friends, that's a lot of mistakes. And so the first goal of the show is to provide information and resources. If I can help just one of you out there not to make some of the mistakes I've made or seen, then I'm happy. The second goal is to inspire, because I found being an entrepreneur confusing, lonely. You have no idea if you're on the right track or where to turn for good advice. So every week on the show, I have guests who are willing to share their stories and advice. And this week's guest is Jackie Comacho Ruiz, and she is the owner and founder of JJR Marketing. And she's also an author and has some very interesting approaches and ideas and thoughts and suggestions for those of you out there on marketing and public relations. Jackie, welcome to the Savvy Entrepreneur Show. Thanks so much for being with me today.
Thank you. I'm really excited about being here, number one, and two, speaking about one of my favorite subjects in the whole wide world.
Well, and that would be what?
Marketing.
Marketing. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
For lack of marketing, so many businesses have ended up in the dustbin, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
So
and
what does
lack of understanding, yeah.
So what does your company do? Talk about JJR Marketing. Why did you found it? Who's it designed to help? And who are your key customers?
JJR Marketing was established in 2006 with the idea of becoming the outsourced marketing department for many companies in need of thought leadership, positioning, media placements, content creation, design, and overall branding and positioning. We primarily have focused on helping companies in manufacturing, IT, professional services, and nonprofit organizations. And as I mentioned, we have become the right hand for so many of those businesses that need content, creative, execution, deployment, outreach to the media. We typically find ourselves working with 35 to 65 Caucasian CEOs leading at the helm of companies. Lately, we've diversified more in other spaces, mostly B2B, but we do work with a lot of B2C entities as well.
Well, your website also says you do public relations. I think this is a common misconception or source of confusion. What's the difference between public relations and marketing?
Absolutely. Well, marketing is a kind of a combination between science and art that allows the marketer or whoever is deploying the marketing to create an ecosystem where people would be inspired, to take an action. Whereas PR is the ability to persuade, communicate with media outlets about trends that are going on in order to position someone as a thought leader or to persuade them on a specific topic of conversation that will be valuable to their audience. So in essence, PR is the ability to secure third-party endorsements in order for us to create an ecosystem of people raising their hands and saying, I want to work with that company. So marketing is definitely more direct than PR, but the weight of PR and the weight of that magic is absolutely amazing. Somebody, a reputable media source saying you are amazing is 10 times more powerful than you saying you're amazing.
Yes, I could understand that entirely. How did you get into this? How did it become your passion?
I actually started in the sales realm. I was working with Marriott.
Not really. Sales?
Sales, yes.
I thought sales and marketing never talk to each other.
We hate each other for the most part, but I figured out a way. And this is actually what led me to PR. So it was fascinating because I was doing sales and I realized in order for you to have a sale, you need to have somebody autograph a piece of paper, right? That constitutes a sale. But then I figured out, I'm like, what if I just create the context where that same individual could be inspired to autograph that paper, to sign it, to give approval, right? And that's what I thought marketing was. And I really love the idea of understanding what they needed, what they were going through in order for them to be inspired for that call to action. And then I found PR. I'm like, wow, I don't even need to talk to them. I could just talk to somebody else and say how amazing they are to secure third-party endorsements so they could be inspired to sign that piece of paper, right? So it was a progressive thing. And of course, I still do all of the above, right? As a CEO of the helm of a marketing agency and a publishing company, I still do a lot of sales.
Well, right. You still have to sell to clients. A lot of people who are in service businesses, and I think I was guilty of this when I first started out offering consulting services. I thought that if I demonstrated my expertise, people would flock. And you know what? You need to be a salesperson too in order to close business with companies, right? I mean, you won't have any clients if you can't sell to them and close those deals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's we as entrepreneurs, as you were talking about, I wrote a book called The Little Book of Business Secrets That Work. That was my first book back in 2010. And those were the little book of business secrets that actually work, right? Imagine if I were to write the ones that didn't work, right? And I mean, it would have been like a never-ending Bible, or encyclopedia. And that's the same thing, it's like as entrepreneurs, we have to do everything from sales to janitorial services in our office, whatever it might be. It's just, the ability for us to think extemporaneously, think outside the box, go from, in my case, sales, marketing, PR, management, administration, hiring, firing, strategy, accounting, financial. It's just, but that's what makes it so exciting to be an entrepreneur for me.
It is, and your point is spot on about, although it might be kind of a funny book, I think the problem would be a very long book of little book of business mistakes would probably turn into a big book of business mistakes pretty fast because, if you look at the statistics, the vast majority of small businesses don't make it past, say, 5 years. And so, there's a lot of us out there making a lot of mistakes. So you're passionate about 5 types of marketing. How did you come up with this system of organizing the types of marketing? I guess first talk about what are those 5 types of marketing from the way that you and your company look at marketing.
Well, you know what? I have been on a quest, Doris, on a quest to answer the most important questions in the marketing field. And I've been doing this for almost 20 years and almost 17 years as an entrepreneur at the helm of one of the top agencies here in Chicago, teamed by 3 third-party research firms. So I have come in touch with so many different problems that I have to solve with various industries. And the question had always been, wow, marketing is created equal. People take the approach of spraying and praying or throw spaghetti on the wall.
Oh, I've done that. I've done that. Yeah. you can spend your entire days and weeks doing nothing but flinging stuff out there on Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm. But the thing is that it does not give us the answers that we're looking for. And oftentimes, most of the time, Doris, businesses are frustrated, overwhelmed, disappointed at the results with marketing, spending thousands upon thousands of dollars, not getting the results they want. So I went on a quest about a decade ago. I said, you know what? There's got to be a solution. And my mission is always to make it easy. Right? I'm not asking people to understand what I do. My job, my mission is to help them land on their goals and objectives, right? And like I said earlier, it's a science and it's an art. And if you can combine the two and intercept those two worlds to produce results for the clients, that's what I always aim for. So in that quest, I started realizing that if I did a website for a client and they were expecting thousands of leads to come in, that was a completely out of touch of our reality expectation, right? Because building a website does not mean that people are going to flock to you and you're going to have thousands of people coming your way. No. It basically means that now you've established a presence. So to me, I call that foundational marketing. If you say, I'm going to be in business, you have certain requirements, certain touch points, certain vehicles that have to be in place, without a doubt, for you to be recognized as someone that exists in a business sense. And the results on that are completely different. So for companies that are already established, foundational marketing could be revamping logos, revamping content to basically retrofit the content to adjust to their future state of the company or where they're going or a new audience they want to tap into. That's foundational marketing. It's establishing the ground rules, establishing literally the foundation of where they are, where they want to go, and looking at their marketing and all their touch points from that lens. And that's something that everyone should consider as a new startup company, as an established business. Always go back and zoom out, see your foundational marketing, what needs to be changed so you can continue to constantly evolve.
How often do you think people should go back and relook at their foundational marketing to make sure it's still consistent and still tells the story that they want to tell?
I would recommend they do it every 3 to 5 years. That is, long enough and short enough at the same time to be able to just ask those questions. Are we still on track? Are we, from the overall perspective, right? I mean, obviously, as things are coming up and extemporaneously making decisions, but overall as a brand, going back and looking at every touch point, the inventory of all of the things that have your logo on, I would say, 3 to 5 years extensively. That actually leads us to the next type of marketing, which is executional marketing. It's one of my favorites because really this is where the rubber meets the road. This is almost like the carpet in a house. It's the constant, ongoing, regular interval communication that allows us to say, I am alive, I am present, I have a commitment with my audience, and I communicate and I add value to them. So this could be a combination of, again, regular intervals of communication that include blogs, that happen on a monthly basis, social media posts that happen 3 times a week, an email blast that goes out to the clients once a month. Give you an example. I've been sending out a newsletter / email blast for the last 87 months.
Oh my goodness. I would call that consistent. I mean, a lot of people say, the important thing, quality and consistency. Well, I'm sure the quality is very good too, but the consistency the commitment to that is obviously there.
Yes. And you know what? That is my commitment to that. And sometimes you starting executional marketing and you starting a blog, for example, right? And doing it for 3 months and then stopping it is worse than not starting the blog at all. So in other words, if you are saying with executional marketing, I commit to this monthly email blast, social media, the audience should begin to feel a sense of expectation, sense of excitement. And that's what executional marketing does. Usually communications are 85% educational and 15% promotional, and allows people to raise their hand and say, I am ready to work with you. I love the value that you're bringing me. I love your monthly communications. I am ready to do this. And, I have a client, for example, that has come back to us 3 times because she was part of our communications, and she's come back 3 times with 3 of her businesses so that we can rebrand it, create it, relaunch it, make it come to play, because of our 88 communications, from our company.
You raise an interesting point, which is the consistency. If you're starting to blog or you're posting on LinkedIn or whatever you've chosen, you need to be consistent. But at some point, you may find that it just isn't the right place, or you're not hitting the right tone. So how long is, at the other end of the spectrum, as you just continue to blog and blog and blog and you get nothing. So at what point should you relook at what you're doing if it's not delivering the results?
The virtue of a marketer is to take the pulse on the results and the KPIs. So from the very beginning, when it comes to executional marketing, you should be very specific. Again, it's a science. It's as much as an art as a science. So when you look ahead and say, why am I doing this? Why is this deployment important to me? And what are my expectations? Am I looking to grow followers? Am I looking to generate leads? Am I looking to, create ambassadors for my brand out of this initiative? Do I want to get more engagement? So you take a step forward and say, where do I want to go? And then take a step back to say, what are my key performance indicators that connect to the why of this initiative? So you say, well, if my key performance indicators are increasing my following by 30%, creating, closing 2 leads a month, doing XYZ, then you will always have a vision and a pulse of where you're going. So if something is not giving you the results that you're looking for, but some other thing is, then focus on those things for your audience that give you that kind of result. So it's constantly looking at it every month, looking at the numbers and saying, how are we measuring against those numbers? Are we getting closer or are we getting farther away? One of the biggest things that I see happening with executional marketing is the lack of commitment, right? Because, the first 2-3 months, everybody's excited, like, wow, we have a new email blog, email blog or a vlog.
A newsletter, it looks great,
And then month 4 rolls around and nothing happens. So what happens in that process and how can you counteract that? The best way is planning. Brian Tracy said, you will save 10 minutes for every 1 minute in the execution of that plan, for every 1 minute you plan. So planning ahead, creating an editorial calendar, saying, you know what, we have the next 3 months figured out, and you prepare monthly, 3 months at a time, and you'll always be ahead of the game, and you'll always be on top of it. And that way, it creates that vision for your team, and it gives you that opportunity to look back and, strategize.
Just thinking aloud here, one of the challenges for you in working with your clients is probably carefully managing their expectations, because, as you say, people write the check and they have this website or they have this nice new newsletter and they get all excited, but then it's probably very important to really manage their expectations so that when month 3 rolls around and they still don't have maybe what they hoped, are they being realistic, And so, as you say, developing those KPIs and then managing to them. But I personally have seen, and I probably have been guilty of this, of thinking you're going to get results sooner than you are.
Yes, and that's exactly why I created this methodology, because as I encountered conversations like you're talking about, where I say, hey, we're doing a website and we expect XYZ. And I needed to come up with something that would explain to them that the things that they're doing, the things they need to create that foundation are not the things that are going to help them get to where they want to be. And I also created an assessment where on the onset of any relationship with a client, especially when we become their outsourced marketing department, they fill out a questionnaire that allows them to see where they rank in the 5 type of marketing methodology assessment. And literally out of 100, they get a score. Like a couple of days ago, we had a prospect take one of the assessments, and he came back with a score of 38. That means that we have all of the opportunity. We have 62% of an amazing opportunity to get him where he needs to be.
I took the assessment just for fun. I scored lower than that, so that's kind of embarrassing.
Yes. And so it gives us a benchmark, right? Again, it's a science and it's an art. And, the third type of marketing is time bound. Is a type of marketing that you layer on top of the executional marketing in order to provoke, in order to create a context of immediate response. So time-bound marketing allows us to gauge the interest of an audience based on their participation in something in a place and a specific time. It could be online or it could be in person. So, what do you do to prepare for a time-bound marketing initiative? And what do you do to, in the meantime, and what do you do to close it? So we have
So is time-bound marketing related to events, or is that maybe only one kind of time-bound marketing?
No, time-bound marketing is anything that happens at a place and time. And yes, events, webinars, workshops, presentations, all of that is part of time-bound marketing because we know that it has to happen on a Tuesday at this time, right? Many people do quarterly events on top of their executional marketing, and that's their strategy. Sometimes people do one big event a year. Sometimes they do monthly webinars and monthly events. It depends on the commitment of the company, right? And the manpower and their resources and their budget and all of that stuff. But time-bound marketing is important for every and any kind of business because it allows you to get in front of an audience and in front of that connection.
Why do you need to have time-bound marketing in addition to executional marketing? I mean, I think about executional marketing as kind of like you put the mousetrap with the cheese out there and eventually some mice will come along. But why do you need time-bound marketing in addition to that?
Time-bound marketing is a very pragmatic way to gauge the interest of an audience, right? It's the ultimate way to gauge engagement. Now, when you are posting on a regular time interval basis, you're not necessarily asking much of the audience, right? They might like it, they might click on it, they might share it. But when you talk about time-bound marketing, you allow an opportunity for people to come together and make the deepest connection to your company in that space in time. And it's probably the type of marketing that requires the most action on the audience part, right? I mean, imagine an event, a live event. Those connections cannot be replaced with a monthly email blast, with a monthly social media post. They can only happen in that kind of environment, right? The in-person events where you're adding value, you're connecting with that. So every company, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, time-bound initiatives, they should always consider doing that to really gauge the interest and make deeper connections with their audience.
Okay, so we have foundational marketing, executional marketing, and time-bound marketing. What's the fourth kind?
Innovative marketing. One of my favorites is probably the type of marketing that requires the most planning and the most budget and the most creativity and innovation. I'll give you an idea. You've heard of that ice bucket challenge, right? The MS Society created that. And there was probably a group of people in a boardroom with sticky notes and big, boards and color markers, putting together a marketing campaign that they had no idea that it was going to become viral, but it certainly had all the ingredients of doing that. They had the challenge component, it had the call to action, it had the emotional connection, and it activated an entire world, with challenging each other with that ice bucket challenge. And in the meantime, educating the audience about MS and sharing the stories and, raising a lot of funds. So innovative marketing is something that is indirectly related to the company, but something that has the ability to become viral For example, your company that is in roofing decides to create the roofing Rocky Awards, right? To bring up and coming talent into the marketplace. Things that are completely off the radar, or you're doing a campaign where you're honoring local teachers, right? And you're bringing the community together. It's not to sell roofs, but it's to really genuinely honor teachers. And it creates this innovation. Or you may be partnered with a city because you love butterflies, and you partner with a city to create these metal butterflies that the businesses can decorate and put throughout in the month of April. That's innovation. I did a campaign with the city of Berwyn where we picked 12 young ladies to get up on stage. We trained them, we coached them to share a message to the world, right? 12 minutes on stage, like a TED Talk. It's called Young Latina Talks. And I partnered up with the city so that the first time it's ever happened in the city of Berwyn, right in front of City Hall, we had these big posters of the 12 young ladies that were chosen to participate in this program with their faces on the main road of Berwyn, right in front of City Hall. Now, that was completely innovative, completely different, and it created the emotional connection, the call to action, the magic, all of that in the community. And those type of initiatives are the ones that make people look, again, and make people, be inspired and say, wow.
Yeah. They're often quite memorable and maybe unexpected sometimes too.
And they're visual. They're very visual.
Okay, so what's the fifth kind of marketing?
The fifth one is cause marketing. Oh my gosh, this is one of my most treasured type of marketing, because many companies that give back to the community do not oftentimes know how to basically toot their horn in a very graceful way.
Right.
Like,
I agree with that.
To a nonprofit organization and you're thinking, this is the best kept secret. But guess what? There are beautiful, amazing ways to strategically and intentionally partner up with a nonprofit organization with a local cause to say, I want to make a difference. And I'm doing this in a very graceful way that allows me to raise more money for you, more connections. And as a byproduct of that, people know that I mean well, that these are my core values, that these are the things that make our company the company that it is. And it really solidifies a relationship with your clients. It puts you on the spotlight in a very graceful way for prospects that say, wow, I love their core values. Anytime that you partner up with a nonprofit organization that, is willing to share the feel-good story in the community, not only can it produce media placements for photo ops, but it could also solidify the emotional connection you have with your prospects and your clients by letting them know what you believe in and letting them know that you're going out of your way in a very indirect way to impact the community. But indirectly, you're also elevating the message of your company and who you are.
Amazing. You've developed 5 different types of marketing. There's foundational, executional, time-based, innovative, and cause-based. I'm curious why you've come up with this framework. How do you find that this has helped businesses? Because I would say most traditional marketing firms talk about, we have, electronic marketing and print marketing, and I don't know, they divide it up in different ways. But I find your organization to be quite different than most. So talk about how you came to that and why you think the way you've divided it up really helps clients.
Again, this is my perspective of 20 years of marketing and really aligning expectations from clients. I know that there are a lot of different marketing deliverables, but I think this framework allows us to design a variety of marketing tools so that we're not spraying and praying, and in really align with the expectations of those marketing vehicles so that you're putting the money in the right place you're putting the money where you know that the expectation is aligned and there's no mismatch, because that's the biggest issue with businesses. It's saying, you know what, there's so much to do in marketing. There's trends that come in and go. There are fads and things that, I believe that I need to be doing because everybody's doing QR codes. All of a sudden I need to do QR codes. Everybody's
right.
on
I
Twitter.
need to be on Instagram. I need to be on TikTok, right? Everybody's on TikTok. I have to.
But it's like, why do you need to be there? And if you knew that these types of marketing are created to elicit different responses, to create different things. I mean, and truthfully, I mean, if every business would consider incorporating to different levels and different measures, different types of marketing, I think they would feel that their budget goes, is invested in the right places. And most importantly, create that clarity, that pathway of expectations. I mean, that's the biggest thing. And that's the reason why 5 types of marketing is an answer to the never-ending inquiries of why does my marketing suck? Why, and this is explanation of why.
Yeah. Well, all right. So, I'm thinking back to small businesses I've worked with, that I've started myself, that I've had with friends, and I think about all the challenges that we had with marketing. We did a lot of marketing, but because there are so many different ways to market your business, how do you help clients decide where to focus the very limited time and money that lots of small businesses have? And, a related question, I guess, is, are there certain types of marketing or steps that every small business should really focus on?
Absolutely. When time is limited, the very first thing is, do an assessment, see where you stand in the correlation of, the different types, because that automatically tells you that benchmark of where you are, and it gives us a clear pathway of where people need to focus. Now, I always tell people, if you have limited budget, limited time, limited resources, my biggest recommendation is that you always look at your foundational marketing, and if you don't do anything else, executional marketing. Those are the 2 ones that I would highly recommend. You need to assess where you are with your foundation. And second, you need to have that ongoing deployment of regular intervals of communications, because you are in business and that's your commitment. And that's exactly the way that you funnel amazing opportunities to come back to your business and really land on those opportunities with executional marketing.
I'm envisioning almost like a pyramid, where the base platform is the foundational, just like you said, and then maybe there's another layer on top, the executional. So you have to get those kind of in place and nailed down first. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's kind of what I'm hearing. And then as you solidify those, then you can start sprinkling in some of the other layers. Is that a fair way to describe it?
Yeah, that could be a way to do it. And it also depends on their goals and objectives. Remember, I mean, it goes back to the why. Why am I doing this? Why is this important? What is the changed circumstance that is leading me to believe that I need to make this happen, that I need to lead with, this type of, initiative, right? Because many times, in order to activate an audience, you might want to do that time-bound marketing.
Yeah.
Right? You might want to host an event to, if you're opening up a place, well, guess what? Let's have a ribbon cutting ceremony to gather content and photos and, connections.
Right.
So it really just depends. But my biggest mission is for people to know, for businesses to know, that not all marketing is created equal, and there are ways to create marketing vehicles that will lead you to where you're expecting it to lead you to, and eliminate that frustration.
Well, one of the things I love about your approach to marketing is not only you have this innovative 5 types of marketing, which is a very different way of breaking down and looking at marketing, I think, than a lot of firms, but you've also developed a series of cards to help clients improve their marketing. How did that come about? And talk a little bit about how that works.
The never-ending question of what type of marketing vehicle should I deploy? Should I do social media? Should I do email blasts? Should I do blogs? What should I do?
Direct mail. I've heard lately, I've been reading,
Yes.
Everybody's getting back to direct mail. Everybody. I don't know if that's true or not,
It is. It is very true because everybody used to do mail. Everybody used to do direct mail, everyone, right? And you get piles and piles and piles of mail. And then people started then going to the digital world. And now that everybody's been on the digital world, not a lot of people are doing direct mail. Now it's sort of coming back up as a wave. But again, this never-ending question, Doris, of why should I do direct mail instead of email?
Right, exactly.
Why should I do this? So what I did is I took my years and years of experience and I basically simplified the marketing deliverables. And what I did is I identified what they were, what is the frequency required in order to make that successful, and what is the correlation between the investment and the effectiveness of that vehicle, and how when you mix 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you get exponentially more results. So this became an amazing guide that was shared in a lot of the small business development centers for small businesses to say, wow, I didn't know there were all these vehicles. I had no idea that this vehicle is more powerful and less expensive than the other vehicle. I didn't know that I can combine various different vehicles. I ended up creating a board game called the Chief Marketing Officer.
I love it. I love it.
Employs, and you know what? It was because one of the innovation officers at the Illinois Mathematics and Science Academy came up to me and said, Jackie, this is absolutely brilliant. I want to build a board game with you. And we did case studies upon case studies with entrepreneurial students. And we came back with, the algorithms, the case scenarios, all the metrics in order for you to deploy a marketing strategy based on different scenarios and the algorithms behind it to be able to choose who the winner was based on the combination of those marketing deliverables. So it is something that I feel very proud of. It was probably my first, besides my business book that also had a lot of marketing stuff, it was the first major contribution to my industry, those marketing deck of cards.
I love it. I think it's just another reflection of the innovative way that you look at this. I mean, who else would come up with a board game for marketing? So how do you help your clients? Maybe you could share a story or two of how your approach has helped some of your clients. And, I don't want you to reveal any client confidences or anything like that, but I thought if you do have a short story or two to share, people would probably enjoy listening to it.
I love that. So recently we had a client that was looking to develop a national launch campaign for a kind of an online educational platform. They provide training for out-of-school educators. This is, the out-of-school programs, whether it be by the government or private. And that really represents, a huge opportunity as they are coaching and training and guiding the students, right, for all the out-of-school programs. They were looking to launch it, and we came up with some very innovative stuff. We launched an OST, or out-of-school program award. We also deployed this beautiful, talking about mailings, we deployed this amazing influencer kit that included to follow my suit and my innovation on the deck of cards. We created this beautiful deck of cards that were prompts for conversations, deeper conversations in the industry. We created a book for them that talked about the 12 principles of OST, and it was completely innovative. The box, the launch happened to be at different trade shows around the United States that were specifically geared for their audience. And now they're in the process of collecting nominations. We're deploying the mailings of the physical influencer boxes that were custom made by us with all of the different ingredients, all of the different tools. And it has become a huge success. So now the client says, oh my gosh, like, we as their right hand, we've been providing the strategy, the content, the ideas, the deployment, the creative, the go-to-market strategy. And now they're like, wow, we love all the innovations, right? Coming back from the pandemic and launching this in a physical sense, at different trade shows and identifying what those were. And then curating a list for a very bullseye audience to get those influencer kits that are probably each, I don't know, $40, $50. They are now in the stage where they're like, we cannot do this alone. What you've been able to do for us and those legacy pieces that you've created, like the deck of cards, the books, the awards that they can now deploy every year for their industry to put them on the map. And then on top of that, securing podcast interviews, media interviews, radio, TV, print, magazines along the way. That means something, right? When you deploy something that is strategic, integrated, that it makes sense, that is cohesive, consistent, it has continuity, the difference you can see miles and miles away.
Wow, that's amazing. Before we run out of time, I want to make sure that you have a chance to talk to listeners about your upcoming book that's going to be released. And it's obviously not your first book, but it's your latest one. So talk a little bit about what prompted you to write this one.
Oh my God, this is very exciting because, as I mentioned, I've been doing, marketing for many, many years. And I coined this 5 type of marketing methodology. So my book is called The 5 Types of Marketing, a blueprint for successful business in the 21st century. The book is going to come out in June of this year. We are essentially launching this as my legacy to the industry. I would love this amazing book to be taught in universities, with marketing, because I've had the pulse of this industry for 20 years, and I know the trends, the things that have happened. I've been at the pulse of manufacturing, IT, professional services, nonprofits, B2B, B2C. I'm in the trenches with these businesses, right? I'm creating and paving the way for people to lead the way in this. So that's what I'm really excited about.
So when is the book going to be released, and when should people look for it?
The book will be released in June 2022, and find me on Amazon. That's probably the best way. And this, by the way, will be my 29th book.
That's insane.
Yes.
Jackie, that's crazy. You are an ever-ready bunny, I think. You must. When do you sleep? That's a rhetorical question. So I saw on your website that there are resources to help people become speakers, which obviously is a great way to become a recognized authority or an expert in a particular subject, but there's also one on writing a book. And, it's interesting because I've had several colleagues and friends lately write books, and most of them have been disappointed. First of all, writing a book is a lot of time. It's a very big endeavor, but I think there's more to it than just writing the book. So for people who might want to be an author, or maybe they have a book in progress, what advice can you offer them in terms of making sure that all that time and energy they put into their book gets them the publicity or exposure that they're hoping for?
First of all, I think there's a misconception of why people write books, right? I mean, I wrote my first book because I wanted my children to know who their mommy was in case I died after surviving cancer 2 times, at the age of 21 and at 23 years old, having pre-cancer and having my entire digestive system reconstructed and being told that I might die in 2 weeks or I might be fed out of a tube for the rest of my life. So it's like you first need to be sure of why you're writing a book. Why is this important to you? How is your legacy shared in the world, and why is now the right time? If you're looking at a book as a business transaction, you're looking at it in the wrong way. A book is a legacy building piece, is the most humble and amazing way to encapsulate your intellectual property, your legacy, and to impact people that, you'll never meet. So doing that, you can, of course, use a book strategically from the marketing side, to get speaking engagements, to generate revenue, to generate opportunities, to create feel-good stories in the community, but it's never the intended purpose. Only 1% of the people that write books become millionaires because of it. And typically they are already millionaires because they have a huge following. So, for the rest of us in the world, the reasons to write a book is because you have something to say, and you've identified that now is it right time to say it, and that you are sprinkling that legacy and as an extension of your personal brand, because you want to add value to that community. And on the other side, there are a myriad of ways that you can monetize, and you can create, and you can connect, and you can elevate, and you can intercept conversations. I would not be where I am today at the helm of 2 successful international companies without having become an author. That was, to me, one of the accelerators. I have traveled the world to 4 continents to share my inspiration because I'm an author. I have given opportunities to speak at an island, at a private island where 300 soldiers live, with 300 soldiers standing ovation in uniform and giving a coin of excellence by the U.S. Army, because I'm an author, because I'm a speaker. And I've had so many micro moments along the way because of it. And I think that's the biggest reason. And yes, I've made a lot of money. I've sold thousands and thousands of books. I have museums. I buy my Latinas in Aviation book, and that, and one of them is doing a permanent exhibit on some of the authors that were featured in my book.
Jackie, I could foresee trying to get you to come back on the show just to talk about things to think about as you're writing a book and getting it published, and then promoting it and actually successfully using it as a tool to achieve your objectives. Before I let you go, I would love to get your advice looking back over your own ventures as a woman CEO, as a Latina CEO. What advice, looking back, would you give to other small business people to help them have a better entrepreneurial journey?
Well, I can probably write another book about that, but like you said, all the mistakes that we make, starting a company. But there are 2 pieces of advice that I think really stand out to me. One is be yourself. Everybody else is taken. Be yourself and be authentic. I remember, my first, PR meeting with one of my mentors, and he was a very well-known journalist, in the community, kind of going to the other side of PR as well. And he took me under his wing, and we went to a meeting, and I was super excited. Over the moon to be in this meeting. And when we got out of the meeting, he said, "Jackie, you said the word amazing like 1,000 times. Next time, tone it down." And I got in my car and I started crying. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even feel like I said the word amazing, but I was genuinely excited. I called my other mentor and I said, should I tone it down? She's like, absolutely not. This is who you are. And I think later in my entrepreneurial career, when people found out that I meant well, that excitement and motivation and magic was actually turning into results, from that pragmatic side as well. They're like, oh, bring it on. This is so unique and so different. And
that's who Jackie is, right?
Yes. So be yourself. And the sooner that you find yourself, the sooner that you find your authentic voice, your messages, the way that you want to share that with the world, don't be afraid of that. It's like believe in yourself. And the second thing is learn how to delegate, because the success of an amazing entrepreneur lies on the ability to encapsulate her intellectual property and get results through other people, basically build their wings. So delegate as much as you can so that you continue to create, you continue to evolve, imagine, and grow and become successful.
Great advice. If people are interested in learning more about JJR Marketing or your upcoming book, or maybe they just want to shoot the breeze with you, what's the best way for people to get in touch?
I love shooting the breeze, by the way. I'm like one of the busiest people in the world.
Me too.
But I love, like giving back and like, hey, you want to brainstorm about your idea? Let's do it, right? And give them the best that I can. But they can go to jjrmarketing.com, and that's probably the best way, or JackieCamacho.com, to allow them to, just basically connect and download a bunch of resources that I have on all my websites, all my brands, always giving back, always creating opportunities to add value and connections. And I think that's the most beautiful thing that I can share with people,
And I assume that there will be or is information on your websites about your upcoming book too, so that people can look for that.
I will probably have to add it to the JJR one, but if they go to JackieCamacho.com, they'll see all of my books, all of my programs, and connections to all of the brands and businesses that we operate.
And tell people one more time the title of your new book so they can watch for it.
The 5 Types of Marketing, a Blueprint for Successful Business in the 21st Century.
Well, I'm definitely going to watch for that book, and I hope all of you out there do as well. It sounds like a great book, and I'll be interested to learn more about Jackie's 5 different types of marketing in the book. So, Jackie, thanks so much for being with me today. It was really a delight having you on the show.
Thank you. You are paving the way for so many entrepreneurs. I'm very proud of you, and what an honor to be here with you today. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I am absolutely passionate that we need to feature more women entrepreneurs, more immigrant entrepreneurs, more entrepreneurs of color, people who, are underrepresented out there. And if I can help give any of you a hand, please get in touch with me at dnagel, Nagel, at thesavvyentrepreneur.org. You'll always get a response back from me. Be sure to join me again next Saturday at 11 a.m., noon Central. Let's try that the other way. 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern. Until then, I'm Doris Nagel, wishing you happy entrepreneuring.